Hello there, everybody. Patricia Hayes here with our coffee time career chat networking version because we're talking a little bit about some networking things in the middle of a transition. So we've combined our topics for this month, and I'm excited about this. This is part 2 of networking through a transition. So a couple of weeks ago, we did part 1. You can go search and find it in the social media platforms or on the YouTube channel for sure. But we're going to go through part 2 here. And let's just a quick recap. From part 1, what we were really talking about was kind of like the basics, right? And we were discussing about how you have to get outside the box, about, when it's time to level up and how do you approach that. And then masterminding your way out, building up, pulling together, I should say, some key relationships to serve as your personal mastermind through the process. So today, we're going to talk about part 2, where we're really going to be focused on the balancing act, right? Because there is a balancing act that has to be made when you're in a transition, because there's so much going on. And this balancing act is that of creating new pathways while maintaining what you have. And I'm talking about in terms of your professional relationships and connections. Okay. So, you need to move forward, push forward with some new relationships, some new opportunities, all of that. But you're like, I've got these people here. Like, what do I do with them? I need to be able to do it. So we're going to talk about that today. And here's really, before we even jump into those, the details of those strategies, let's address the mindset piece right here, because there are 2 things that need to happen. You need to have focused efforts during this time, but the ability to maintain an expansive perspective. What do I mean? The things that you are going to need to do in order to be successful in them, you're really going to have to dial in, be specific, be intentional. I know I get repetitive, but that's literally what you have to do. However, you also have to be able to keep your options open, be flexible. And this is what I mean by saying to have an expansive perspective. Okay? So when you're able to do that, that is going to put you in the best position for moving forward. Now, when you're not, because this is what most people do in a transition, they do the complete opposite. They have really wide open efforts, right? They're all over the place, and they have a really focused perspective, and narrow-mindedness is what I will say about what it is they think they should do, because most of the time they're acting out of fear, out of scarcity, all of those things. So they do the flip. And so that's why I had to lay out here that it's actually focus your efforts, keep an expansive perspective, be flexible, be open in order to achieve success in this process. Okay. And success is not always getting the new job. And I know that may sound like a little controversial. I'm like, well, what are we talking about? Because sometimes what happens is there's some other new opportunity that arises in the midst of this that you didn't even anticipate. You didn't anticipate it, and it ends up being more valuable than the thing you were going after. Just saying. I've seen it happen. Right? I've seen it happen recently. So this is why it's important to keep an expansive mindset and perspective about things, because there are going to be some things that come up that surprise you. And we don't want you to be taken off guard by them. We want you to be able to incorporate them into what you're doing. Now, you cannot achieve next level goals solely by relying on your existing contacts and your existing connections. All right. Some people must say, well, that's not true. That's how I got my next. I'm like, I'm not talking about just moving from one job to the next. I'm talking about when you are achieving really next level, right? Not next job, but like next level. Like, you know that you are reaching for something that's not the norm, that's above where you might normally just transition to, as far as, oh, I just need to do something else, right? No. That's not the mindset we're talking about here. We're talking about, I know that I have a position that has X amount of authority, responsibilities, or whatever, and maybe it's paying me $80,000 a year. Okay. But you know, the next gig that you really want is one that has, a bigger title behind it with more responsibilities, or not even titles, because I don't like to get caught up in titles, but greater responsibilities, that's got a six-figure salary attached to it, and all kinds of other opportunities. Okay. I'm just using those because those are the most common things that people, look out for. Let's say it's a business you have, right? And you know that the next level thing that you want is, you want to be able to connect up with 3 specific types of people in your industry, or who can support your business, who will allow you to grow at the next level. So whether it's a project, whether it's an assignment of some sort, a contract, okay? These are the things I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the things that you do just to, quote, sustain yourself. That's not to say that none of this is relevant to that, because it is. It can be part of. But when we're talking about next level transitions and networking through them, that's what we're talking about here. Okay. And so that's why I'm pretty adamant about, you can't rely on just who's in your current circles, because most people don't have an extensive enough circle to make that happen. All right. There are some people who do. If you have a really deep and extensive network that you have maintained over some years, but even that's going to require making sure you're leveraging it in a certain way in order to get to those next level things. Okay. But most people don't have that, or do not know how to do it. All right. So here's the thing. You have to get new people. You have to get fresh eyes on your goals, fresh eyes on the things you're looking for. Right? This is how you gain that momentum and you get to the next level things. Okay. So how do you do it? How do you do it? I know the people are like, well, how do you do all of that? That seems like a lot. And I don't, I'm already, hyperventilating from the thought of it. And it's okay. It's deep breaths. We could do this. Okay. So here's the thing. There are 2 ways to do it. Cold turkey, soft intros, right? And that's the one that makes most people, very nervous. And then, or tapping into your existing network, which is what most people are comfortable with. But I'm going to show you how you should be a little uncomfortable, because you need to be doing it in a very specific way. Okay. So the first one, where you're going, cold turkey, like just reaching out to new people that you don't know, or maybe some folks that you barely know, like you attended a conference or something like that you've crossed paths with them, right? And so they're going to provide maybe a soft intro, right? So here's the thing. You are reaching out to these people directly. You don't have a lot of connection with them currently. The best way to do that, like, there are 2 ways to do that as well. You can do that just straight up, emailing someone, calling them, messaging them, something like that. LinkedIn is our friend. I always tell people that. If you're not on LinkedIn, shame on you, because that is one of the most valuable resources for professionals in today's marketplace. And not because you're going to be spamming people. This is not what we do. Okay. But this is how you can go learn about people, figure out where they are, and then do something to help connect you. So if you go to someone's profile and you realize that you're both part of the same sorority, then guess what? Now you have something that connects you to talk about. Hey, Patricia, I see that you are a member of X sorority. So am I. I'm in the process of, making some transitions. I would love the opportunity to chat with you if you have the freedom, or if you have some suggestions about who I should reach out to next because of X. Okay. So whether you are in the same group, whether you have some people in common. Now, before you start using people's names, you need to make sure that it's okay, because you don't know the level of their connection with them, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And this is specific to LinkedIn, but assuming that it's something that's much, colder, like let's say it's someone you are reaching back out to because you attended a conference together, or you went to a retreat, and you met them at this thing, or you met them at, happy hour or whatever it is, but it's time to like go the next step. That's what I'm talking about as far as cold or soft intros. And they're valuable and they're really uncomfortable. I've been doing this for 30 years as part of my job, and there are still moments when I'm like, I really don't want to do that. Right. So it's okay. And then you suck it up and you're like, yeah, but I need this piece of information. So, hey, I'm just, my name's Patricia. We met at this thing, so-and-so, said I should give you a call. And here's my question. Okay. One of the best ways that I always recommend for people to be able to do the cold contact, soft intro thing and meet up people that way is to join a new group. It's the easiest thing to do, because the group itself becomes the connection point, and you use it as your point of leverage. Okay. It is the easiest way to do it. Find the group, pay the dues, attend the stuff, right? Don't just take the emails and try to do it. No. Get out there, be visible, make some contacts in a controlled environment. That's why those group things are the best thing. It's a controlled environment. Someone's already done all the work for you. They've done all the work for you. So that's one of the best ways when you're trying to get connected with some people in a new market, in a new industry, pursue a new interest, is to go join a group. And that way, again, that group becomes your connection point, because that's the thing. You need a connection point. What's the connection point? Okay. And sometimes you'll say, well, I don't have, that's the whole point. I'm reaching out to cold. But there's something, if they are in an industry you're in, that's your connection point. It's like, hey, I see that you do X and you've been in this industry for a minute. I am looking to make a transition into this industry, and I'm looking to get some advice or some recommendations for other resources that I should consider while doing that. That's it. That's the message. That's the text. That's the email, right? Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. All right. Don't make it more complicated. Most people are still really busy, really caught up in things, still in recovery mode. So don't make it more complicated than it has to be. Okay. And so then the second way of being able to do this next level piece of networking and building those relationships when you're in the middle of transition is to tap into your current network. But I'm going to tack on a couple of words. You're going to do it very deliberately and intentionally. This is different because this actually requires work. Most people do not do the work that is necessary to utilize their existing network efficiently and effectively in the middle of a transition. And here's why. Most people respond out of fear, scarcity, because they're concerned like, oh, I got to hurry up and get this new job. I don't want to be without a job. I'm going to need the money. Or what if these people don't like? I mean, all of this stuff, right? These stories that we're feeding ourselves. And this is why I started off with that mindset piece about focused efforts, expansive perspective, and not the reverse. Okay. If you just go haphazard, reaching out to people saying, hey, I'm looking for a new job and I want to do X, let me know if you hear anything. But if this is a person who doesn't have those types of relationships or connections, you've just wasted your time and energy. And you may have you haven't utilized your network in an effective manner because you're tapping into someone who can't really help you. Okay? So this is why the reflection work is so crucial. You must sit down and identify 3 types of people. I want you to identify 3 types of people in your existing network. The first one is someone you know who has moved on already. They do not have to have moved on to the industry that you're wanting to move into or whatever. It's the fact that they have already made a transition, whether it's in their career or in their business, because that is going to be the connection point of your conversation, of talking to them about their transition. What are the things that, really stuck out for you? What is it that you wish you had done but did not? What's your best piece of advice? All right. This is not because your efforts or your experience is going to mirror theirs. It's not. Everyone has a different experience. However, talking to someone about it will help you knock away all the heebie-jeebies, right? And some of that stuff that makes you nervous, because it helps you to realize you're not the only one. Not only are you not the only one, you're not the first one to have gone through this. This is one of those things that when I made one of my first major transitions and a couple of other ones, I really wish I had done more of, okay? Not being scared to reach out to people who have already made a transition and to engage them in that conversation about what that was like for them. Okay, that's the first person. And it could be several. So it doesn't just have to be one, but that's the first type of person I want you to write down in your reflection work. The second one, here's the second one, is someone in the industry who has crossover influence. So this is someone who is in your industry. They don't have to work with you, mind you, okay? But someone that is in your industry, that is in your, field of interest, whatever, but who has crossover influence in terms of, they roll with a bunch of, different people. They like to explore some things, that type of thing, okay? We all know somebody like that, right? We all know somebody like that. So I want you to sit down and actively think about that. And that's a person who you're going to talk to as well, because you're going to do the same thing and talk to them about, hey, I'm in the midst of, a transition. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. And I really want to get to know some other people, whatever. Who will you recommend? Like, how do you do that when you're meeting up or you're connecting with other folks? What does that look like for you? Okay. The third person that you need to write when you're considering tapping into your own network and you're trying to be deliberate and intentional about it is someone who has an extensive, deep network, regardless of the industry. This is your person who is your hardcore relationship builder, right? They know, it's not just that they know a lot of people, because people can say they know a lot of people, but the question is, what's their level of influence, right? What's their level of influence? And, this is the person who can call someone that they haven't talked to in 3 years and say, hey, I got someone who's thinking about doing some things. Do you have some ideas for them? That person. Okay. And sometimes most of us know somebody like that, but it takes a little bit of time to think about it. And it's also because, and the reason why we're hesitant is because we're not keeping good tabs with them. We haven't been nurturing that relationship. This is why I always talk about nurturing your professional relationships, because when it comes time for this transition, the last thing you want is to have to reach out to someone cold, even from your own network. It is different if you're reaching out cold to someone you don't know. But when you're reaching out cold to someone you haven't talked to yourself, like, now you got to get them up to speed. You got to figure out where they are. And, we all have these varying levels of relationships with folks, right? But this is that part of why it's important to nurture them long before you're in that point of need. Okay. Now, if you're in the midst of a transition, you're like, but I didn't do that. It's okay. You're going to have to implement your nurturing sequence like right now. Catching up with folks. You're going to have to schedule the coffees. You're going to have to schedule some video chats. Because the thing you're going to be doing now is trying to go to someone cold and say, oh, but can you help me with? No. Right? So you can have that conversation, say, hey, I'm catching up. It's been a minute. I know. I want to let you know where I am right now. And also ask and see if there's anything that you need that I can keep an eye out for. Always, always, always make sure there is a giving and receiving. Do not just go in to take. All right. The taking part, that is against everything that I teach and that I believe. All right. So make sure, and you may say, well, I don't have anything to give them. You know what? You ask, because you never know. While you're reaching out, you never know who you're going to come across that will be able to be helpful to someone else. Okay. This is why it's important to maintain the relationships and work through the process. Okay. So this is your foundational stuff for while you're networking and through a transition, right? You want to make sure that you balance those efforts of reaching out to the new people as well as reconnecting with other. If you do too much of either one, like, you're going to be out of whack, right? If you reach out only to brand new people, you're going to lose steam on that because you don't have relationships with them yet. And you're going to lose momentum, and you're going to be like, oh, well, see, I knew this wasn't going to work. No, it's not that it's not going to work. It's going to work, but you're trying to rely too heavily on people who don't know you, which is why you have to balance it with the people who do know you. Be respectful of their time and that relationship and build it forward. But if you only rely on people you already know, guess what? You're relying on them to bring in new people to your circle, which is not a bad thing. However, if you over rely and only do that, that means you're not doing any of the work yourself on reaching out to new folks. You have to have a balance of the two things going on. They don't have to be balanced in terms of only this thing every time, but like in terms of across the time of a transition. And remember, I've seen these transitions happen, and they're taking anywhere from 6 months to 12 months minimally, right? So you have the time. These transitions are not happening overnight. I'm so sorry to have to tell you that. You may know someone who says it did, but I bet you anything, if you go back and look at when they actually started doing the work and thinking about what they were going to do and moving forward, it did not happen in the 3 months that they're talking about. There's at least another 3 months before that, when you're just starting to work through it, before you get anywhere near taking action. All right. So do not be fooled by saying, well, it only took them 3 months to get that job. No, it didn't. I can almost guarantee you it did not. There was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that you do not know about. Okay, so don't believe that. Don't believe it. I've worked with too many people and I know that that's not true. Okay, so there we are. Think about that balancing act between the new pathways and the existing relationships. Make sure your mindset is straight. Focused effort, expansive perspective, not the reverse, okay? And then work through your 2 ways. Like, who are you connecting with cold with some soft intros? What new group do you need to join to help, build that out, to help facilitate that, make that a little bit easier for yourself? And tapping into your your current network, very deliberately, very intentionally, doing the reflection work, focusing on identifying those 3 types of people in your network that you can start reaching out to and tapping into right away. Okay, that's it. That's what I've got. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any questions. If you need more work or need help in working through your network and identifying some of those things, happy to have a chat with you and do a consult. Or you can go check out my 30-day networking consistency challenge. It is 4 weeks of very specific actions that you can take that will help you to build out and reconnect. It's the thing that I advise people to do. It's really it's just the plain spoken, like, do this every day, do this next thing, and identifying ways to tap into your professional network on a consistent basis so that it becomes a habit and you're not rushing into it or feeling stressed about it down the road. Okay. So that link is in my bio. You can always check that out. Take care, everyone. I will talk with you again soon. Bye-bye.